Hi, my name is Zach, and I am a Christo-Pagan. Now, you might be wondering what a Christo-Pagan is. And to put it simply, a Christo-Pagan is someone who practices a spirituality that combines beliefs, values, and practices from both Christianity and paganism. So you now might also be wondering what practices, values, and beliefs do we adhere to? And the answer to that is it's personal, because Christo-Paganism is not a religion. It is a spiritual path that each individual makes for themselves. So I cannot tell you what Christo-Paganism looks like as a whole, but I can tell you what it looks like for me. So first, let me talk about my foundation, the foundation of my faith. So I grew up Protestant Christian. I went to mostly Baptist and non-denominational churches. What I believed, in a nutshell, was, there's God who created the world, and then Adam and Eve sinned or disobeyed God, therefore bringing sin into the world and cursing all of humanity, separating us from God. And then eventually God sent his son, Jesus, to be born of a virgin, live a sinless life, teach his disciples, die on the cross, therefore paying the price for our sins, and then raised from the dead 3 days later, and ascend into heaven just after giving us the Great Commission, telling us to go out and tell everyone about him and try to convert people to Christianity, essentially. So that is basically what I used to believe. But I've done a lot of deconstruction. I've knocked out a lot of bricks out of that foundation of my faith, and they've been replaced with a lot of bricks from paganism, very specifically Celtic paganism, and even more specifically Druidry, which is a very nature-based sort of spirituality / religion. I mean, all paganism is nature-based, nature-focused, but Druidry is very, very nature-focused. So, with that out of the way, let's talk about some of my different beliefs and things like that. So first, holy books. So obviously, as a Christian, I have the Bible. I do not believe that the Bible is inerrant, univocal, or even the Word of God. I believe it is an anthology of spiritual works written by a lot of different men from a lot of different times and places. And every one of these men was just trying to make sense of the divine and or control a group of people. So I do not believe that the Bible is literal either. I believe that maybe some of it happened, and what little bit in it that did actually happen didn't happen the way that it says it happened, because the Bible has been mistranslated, both on purpose and accidentally. It has gone through a lot of translation errors and all kinds of things like that. So as far as factual truth goes, I don't think the Bible is all that reliable. I do think that there's a lot of good stuff regarding moral lessons and things like that. In particular, I of course like the 4 Gospels and the book of Acts. There's some other good stuff in there as well, but those are the main things I pay attention to, is the actual words of Christ. Or Jesus. And then there's also the Gnostic Gospels. I've only read one of them so far, but I think that they should have as much importance as any other books of the Bible. And then there's the apocryphal books of the Bible, which I think also deserve as much respect and are worth studying, although I have yet to do so. As far as pagan holy books, I don't really have any. I have some books about paganism, about pagan spirituality and stuff like that, but nothing that would be considered a sacred text. Divinity. Let's talk about divinity. So what do I believe about God? So you could call me a polytheist or dual theist, depending on your definition. Um, I say polytheist because I believe that there are many gods. I say dual theist because I worship two gods, that being Yahweh and Asherah. Um, Asherah is an Abrahamic deity. It's a goddess. She's a goddess that the Jews used to worship. But then at some point, I believe that was around King David's reign or whatever, they got rid of the whole divine feminine. It's a whole thing. You'd have to look into it, which I don't have time to go into here in this video. So those are the two gods that I worship. I believe that there are other gods, but I don't worship them because I don't really feel any sort of close connection to them. I do not believe in the divinity of Jesus. I believe that he was simply a good man. He was a prophet of God that had a lot of good things to say. But no, I do not believe that Jesus was divinity, although I still, of course, hold him up as a figure to look up to, someone whose teachings I try to live by. That is why I still consider myself a Christian of sorts, because I follow the teachings of Christ. The afterlife. So I no longer believe in this binary of heaven and hell. What I do believe is that if you die and you are a good person, you are someone who understands God's message of love, being loving your neighbor and all that stuff, then you will get to go to heaven or the the spiritual realm, whatever you want to call it. I still call it heaven just because that's the language I'm used to. But I don't. I no longer believe in hell. I believe that if you're someone who didn't get it, someone who didn't understand the message of love and all that kind of stuff, that you'll be reincarnated and you'll have to live life again and again and again until you finally understand it. Animism. So animism is the belief that everything has a soul. I don't know if I necessarily believe that every single thing has a soul, but I certainly believe every living thing has a soul. Every tree, every blade of grass, every animal. I certainly believe homes have souls. Special objects, I believe, have souls. I don't necessarily know if I believe that, the plastic caps, bottle caps or something like that have souls, what have you. But I believe that most things have a soul, have some sort of life force. I believe in spirits of the land. So this would include things like fairies and just generally spirits. Some people might say angels and demons. I certainly do believe that there are bad spirits out there, but I don't like to use the language of angels and demons because that is, again, it's just such a binary, black and white view of the world. I also believe that any spirit who is bad can be saved or come around, as you might say. There's a lot of the Christian language I still use and I unintentionally use. So bear with me as I might correct myself sometimes. All right, so let's move on to practices. So one of practices I do is divination. This is essentially just for me, this is a form of prayer. I have what I call prayer tiles. They're just little wooden tiles with pictures on them, symbols that I have created. They're not dissimilar to tarot cards or runes, if you're familiar with those. But yeah, basically I will ask my question to whichever god or spirit I'm talking to, and I will draw these tiles, and I will interpret what they're trying to say to me via those tiles. There's more to it, but you get the idea. Blessings. So blessings is a practice that I do. And again, this is essentially, it would look very familiar in Christianity. It's just prayer, putting hands on someone, to say a prayer over them. I did it over my garden after I planted the seeds. I have I have done that on. I did that on my prayer tiles. I blessed my altar, which is something I'll get to in a sec. But I have an altar, and after I made it and I moved it into place, I bless it. So that is something that I do. So that was the very next thing, my altar. So my altar is just a little space that I have, which is dedicated to the gods. It's where I pray, where I meditate. I have little trinkets on there to represent each one of them, and and that's more of just a focus thing. I'm not worshiping the object itself. That's just more of a focus point for that. Right, celebrations. So there are some holidays that I try to celebrate, mainly the Wheel of the Year. The Wheel of the Year has like 8 holidays on it, so that would be the solstices, the equinoxes, and then all the days in between. Just celebrating the passing of the seasons and everything like that. So the next one we have coming up here is, actually I can't remember the name of it, but it's one of 3 harvest festivals. That is one thing I try to do. I try to do something for every holiday. I don't always get to do something. I haven't done something for all the holidays this year so far, but I do my best to make sure I do at least a little something for them. Music. Yeah, so music is a big thing, especially in, it's a big thing in Christianity, but it's also a really big thing in Druidry. There were historically bards. They were storytellers, poets, musicians, all that kind of stuff. So I actually have a notebook, not this notebook, but a much more fancy special notebook that I write down songs that I've written and other things like that. But that's something very important to me. Music is a very important thing. So I do write songs and stuff, and I might share some of those at some point. Right, so let's move on to values. And this one's going to be fairly short. So my values that I adhere to, I have what I call my Christian Druid Code, which is essentially just a modified version of the 2 Great Commandments. So I have essentially added a third onto it. But so first off, which is love your gods and worship them how you see fit. Because I don't believe that you need to worship any particular god in order to make it into heaven, if you want to call it that. I believe you really just need to be a good person. So if you're an atheist and you don't have any gods, then cool. You don't have any gods, then you don't have to worship them. That's how you see fit. But just be earnest in what you believe, in how you worship and all that stuff, as long as it's not hurting anybody. Moving on to the second one, which is love your neighbor as yourself. Pretty simple, That's one of the things Jesus said. Love your neighbor. Take care of the people around you. Do your best to be neighborly. I've been doing my best to try and do that as of late. And then the third is love nature and take care of the land. So that is something Jesus didn't say. That's one that I added, obviously. But I believe that there is a huge precedent for it today, because we are putting so much toxins in the air and toxins in the water and just all around not doing good for the earth. We're not taking care of the land. And that is something that we really, really need to do. And something that I, do my best to do. So, that means that I recycle. That means that I go around on walks sometimes with a trash bag and just pick up trash. It means that I go down into creeks and pull tires out of those creeks, that kind of thing. So that's really one of the big things about being a Druid now is just environmentalism. It's just doing whatever you can to, reduce your carbon footprint and reduce waste and all that kind of stuff. And just in general, take care of the land. I have gardens. Small garden here in my yard. Um, but I'm doing what's called permaculture, which is, um, you know, uh, more closely emulating nature, sort of gardening. So yeah, just little ways like that that I try to love nature and take care of the land. And that is all I have for now. Obviously, I have not gone deep into detail about the things that I believe, but I am willing to do more videos on more specific topics and go a little deeper into them. But yeah, this is just something I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I haven't had the guts to do it because this is a heavily Christian area, and I know a lot of people are going to think that I'm doing devil worship, which I am not. I don't even believe in the devil. That's another thing. I don't believe in the devil. So, yeah. But if you have any questions at all, please ask, and I will be more than happy to answer.